However, move over to Europe, where Russia claims new gains in Ukraine. On Monday, its defense ministry announced the capture of Zaporizhzhia, a village in the Dnipropetrovsk region. This marks a deeper push into Ukrainian territory as peace talks remain stalled. It's the first reported Russian advance into the region since the war began over 3 years ago. The move signals growing pressure on Ukrainian defences in the east. Meanwhile, fighters battled large blazes in Sumy after overnight Russian strikes. Ukraine has yet to confirm the loss of the village as fighting intensifies. Diplomatic efforts remain frozen with no signs of a breakthrough in sight. We're now joined by Major General Gigi Dawedi, who is a global strategic defense expert, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us, Major General. I first want to get your insight on the situation on the battlefield currently. We know that Russia reportedly controls approximately 20% of Ukrainian territory. That has been maintained for a couple of months now. It seems like the diplomatic negotiations, that has been stalled with minimal Russian advances. However, they are still advancing into Ukrainian territory. Your thoughts on what's going on the ground right now in regards to the direct conflict?
Well, presently, the Ukrainian-Russian conflict is in a state of almost stalemate, but the tactical battles are going on, and the Russian effort is to make small gains as possible to improve the position, because the talks, while peace talks are up in the air, but I don't think President Putin is very serious to negotiate a settlement until his conditions are met. Those conditions are that he wants complete Donbass, he wants the demilitarization of Ukraine. So all that is on the agenda. But the point is that on the ground, tactical battles are going on, small gains are being made, but that is coming at a big cost. So the issue is that both these sides are today locked up in a, I would say, meat grinder type of war, in which the small gains are being made, but these gains are actually tactical, but they have strategic significance because that adds on to the real estate. And today what Russia is fighting for is to gain as much real estate as possible. So these tactical battles are going on while the talks are on, the peace talks are in the air. But I don't think that it's going to end anytime soon. And these tactical battles will go on, and each village or each, I would say, kilometer ground gain is actually counted toward the success, and that's what President Putin is looking at, that he wants to improve his bargaining position on the table and capture as much territory as possible. And you rightly said, today Russia controls about 20% of the Ukrainian territory, but their claims are almost up to 30%, because if he gets Donbass complete, then it will almost come to 30%.
Yes, Major General. Now let's move on to some diplomatic updates. The German Finance Minister and Vice Chancellor Lars Klingbeil has made a visit to Kyiv, reaffirming that Germany's support for Ukraine remains strong. He warned Russian President Vladimir Putin against thinking Germany's aid could wane, calling Germany Ukraine's second largest supporter globally and largest in Europe. Klingbeil urged Putin to engage in the peace process, emphasizing that Ukraine must participate in negotiations. He said lasting peace requires a ceasefire and reliable security guarantees, noting close international coordination to achieve this. At the same time, Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr arrived in Kyiv, where he was greeted by Ukrainian officials at the central railway station, underlining continued international support amid Europe's bloodiest war in 80 years. We are once again joined by Major General Gigi Dawedi. Major General, of course, the European support for Ukraine continues. How important has that been since the Trump administration has come into power?
Well, Trump administration is President Trump 2.0. In fact, he was very emphatic that there has to be a ceasefire and there has to be end of hostilities between Ukraine and Russia, and that's what was his poll flag or poll promise. And therefore, when he assumed the power a second time, he was very keen that the war must end, but that hasn't. And in fact, he tried to coerce the Ukrainian president, and he also gave a threat that they will stop the military aid. But I think there have been rethink on part of President Trump, and after the talks at Alaska, he quite knows that Putin is not going to agree to ceasefire anytime soon. So therefore, new mechanism is being worked out by America and Europe to extend as much military aid as possible. And 2 days back, the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney was there during the celebration of Ukrainian Independence Day, and also the other European leaders have actually come together to ensure that Ukraine gets the weapon system they require to defend themselves. And they had, in fact, promised Germany and Norway have promised that Ukraine will get 2 batteries of Patriot missiles. They'll get the additional air defense systems. So, in summarize, I would say that now Europe and America are actually together to help out Ukrainians to
Yes.
fight the war and to defend themselves. And this promise by the German Foreign Minister is only the strengthening the case in point. And as long as Ukraine gets the weapon system, they get the support, I think they'll fight on, they'll not succumb to the Russian pressure. But without European and American support, Ukraine cannot last for very long.
Thank you very much, Major General Gigi Dawedi, for joining us here on NewsX World. Pleasure to get your insight. We now move on once again. Bangladesh's